Awesome. So excited to have Brian with us. If you want someone that has great industry, great industry perspective and experience, Brian is your guy. Brian Sheehan is the professor at Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University. He teaches courses in advertising, advertising management, advertising strategy, digital advertising. Brian has spent 25 years with Saatchi and Saatchi Advertising. He served as CEO of SNS Japan and SNS Australia. He also spent 9 years as chairman and CEO of Team One Advertising in Los Angeles. Brian has worked with many top national and international brands, including Toyota, General Mills, Procter & Gamble, Hilton, British Airways, IKEA, Time, News Corporation, Bayer, DuPont, Sara Lee, Kodiak, Ritz-Carlton, Castrol, Hewitt and Packard. Wow, a lot of companies, and I recognize all of them, which is a first for me. In 2010, Brian published his first book, Basics Online Marketing. In 2011, he published his second book, Basics in Marketing Management. In 2013, he published his third book, Love Works, How the Best Marketers Make Emotional Connections to Win the Marketplace. And in 2020, Brian and his colleague, Ed Russell, published Advertising Text, Advertising Selling in Today's World, which is the book that Sukan has worked with and we published as courseware. Brian's published regularly in both Advertising Age and Adweek, and has published a number of peer-reviewed advertising journals. So highly qualified for today's session. We're excited to hear from you, and I will turn the time over to you.
Great. Hello, everybody. So far, I think we have a relatively small group, so that's good. That means we can have some good interaction. I imagine more people will be coming in as we go. I see Ed Russell is here. Ed and I worked on this presentation together, and he gave a version of this presentation yesterday, I believe.
And I wanted to see how it was supposed to be presented.
So, Ed, feel free to jump in if you have anything to say or anything to add, or if I forget anything we talked about. So the title of today's presentation is how the advertising business caught COVID-19 and some simple lessons for success. And then hopefully if we have some time, we can have some interaction and talk about where things are going from here. Sorry, let me just click on that. One of the key reasons Ed and I are speaking at this conference is that, as was just mentioned by Kelton, in 2020, we published a new book on advertising called Advertising Selling in Today's World. This book is really an introductory text in advertising. And we wrote it because we'd been teaching so many years, and Ed and I could never find a really good introductory text. So we hope that we've written one, and hopefully some of the people on this conference today may be using it in their classrooms and hopefully using it and liking it. So I want to start really with what's been going on in the ad business. No surprise, 2020 was a vicious, tough year for the ad business, as it was for all businesses worldwide. The worldwide forecast was down 4.1% in terms of spending. The US forecast was down 5.4%. And again, as we can see, 2021 appears to be a better year, in part coming off that horrible low base of 2020. But also because in big markets like the UK and the US, we seem to be getting over the worst of COVID, and hopefully that's something that will happen worldwide. We can see here that the 2021 estimate for worldwide spending is up 10.2%, and that the US forecast is up 3.2%. But we really have to think about what we've gone through and what are the lessons that have been learned for brands that have navigated this really difficult, perhaps even impossible year and a half that we've just had. When we look at the US, and we're going to talk about worldwide markets here, we're going to focus mainly on the US. Obviously we had a huge spike in unemployment. Unemployment reached a peak of 14.7% in April 2020, really a number that hasn't been seen since the Great Depression. And even looking back to October 2020, it's at 6.9%. Unemployment is still relatively high. Of course, tied with unemployment is consumer confidence. Consumer confidence in 2020 took a huge drop. And really, for much of the past year, life felt like this. And what's really interesting is we often talk about consumers as if they're some sort of third party, but we're all consumers. And everyone on this call, I think, has gone through this, having to deal with, wearing masks, having to deal with worrying about getting sick, having to worry about seeing their parents if their parents happen to be in an assisted facility, and worrying about their kids going to school and staying home and teaching their kids and all the horrible things we had to worry about. That happened to all of us, and it happened to consumers. Consumers had a lot to think about and a lot to worry about, perhaps at a level we've never seen. And I put this up because I thought it was just something interesting I read a few weeks ago. And it said, as someone said to me recently, never in the history of calming down has someone calmed down by being told to calm down. Never in the history of being resilient has someone been resilient by being told to be resilient. The myth of resilience is that it's a trait that individuals can exhibit, that any individual has the magical superpower that allows them to survive adversity. And the myth is that if you don't show it, it's because you didn't want it enough. And I think this has never been more true than what we've gone through in COVID. It's easy to tell people, don't worry. But of course we're worried. It's easy to say, calm down. But of course, it's hard for us to calm down. And brands and products have a role in that in terms of how they communicate to us throughout the entire crisis. This, again, is a quote that came from the same person who wrote that. This is by Bruce Ainsley, who's written a number of books on the working world and how to work more effectively. And what he said, which I thought was really important, was the more we feel part of something bigger than ourselves, the more it actually impacts our mental and physical health. Being connected makes us stronger. And the reality is that's never been more true. And the brands that understood this early in the crisis did very well. And the brands that understand it now are the brands that will continue to do well. And that's because brands help us by progressing us physically and emotionally to a new normal via either their brand purpose or their products or the emotional assistance they can give us. They can provide one, both, or all of those three things to help not only them succeed, but to help us succeed in getting through this crisis and getting back to where we hopefully all want to be. So what I want to do now is I really just want to look at the stages that we've seen in the pandemic so far. I want to talk about brands who've navigated those stages really well. I'll show a few examples of brands that have navigated it very badly. And then we'll talk at the end of each stage about what some of the lessons are that we can learn. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end for people to talk about, what we think the world will look like going forward. Ed and I actually talked about this. We thought, at the end, we'll put together what we think the future will be like. And the reality is we don't know what the future is going to be like. And we'd love to hear from you. And we'd love to talk about it and get a feeling from all of us as to what are some of these lessons and whether these lessons will carry through into the next 6 months and the next year, or which of them were just unique to the pandemic and may just go away. So here were the three stages of the pandemic. The initial stage, and this was getting through the panic. And it really was a panic. I mean, in March, April, and May of 2020, nobody really knew what was going to happen. I mean, this was a worldwide pandemic with a very high death rate, and everyone was shutting down, and no one had ever lived in a world like that. So brands had a role in helping people cope with the panic. Then we had the second stage, and the second stage is really the new normal. And the new normal was, hey, we're all wearing masks, we're all at home, we're all teaching our kids at home, we're all doing Zoom meetings every day as we're doing now. And we're sort of getting used to the idea of this is the way life is. And at that time, from June 2020 to February 2021, no one knew how long that would be. We were talking about inoculations, but there really wasn't an antidote. So at this point, this is the new normal for as long as it's going to be. And then the third stage, and the third stage is embracing recovery. We have vaccines now. Those vaccines are rolling out. And we're embracing this idea of, hey, maybe life can get back to what it was before. And what we have to recognize is it will never get back to what it was before. Life will change. But there are a lot of things we did before that we're starting to do again. And again, what I want to talk about is brands that have navigated these three stages very well, and maybe some brands that didn't do it so well. So let's talk about some brands that have done it right. So one of the brands that I think did it brilliantly right out of the gates at the highest part of the panic, really in March and April, was Nike. And Nike is all about inspiration. And this was a time when the world really needed a lot of inspiration. So let's take a look at what Nike did early in the pandemic.
We're never alone. And that is our strength. Because when we're doubted, we'll play as one. When we're held back, we'll go farther and harder. If we're not taken seriously, we'll prove that wrong. And if we don't fit the sport, we'll change the sport. We know things won't always go our way.
And the world's sporting events are postponed or cancelled.
But whatever it is, we'll find a way. And when things aren't fair, we'll come together for change.
We have a responsibility
to make this world a better place.
And no matter how bad it gets, we will always come back stronger. Because nothing can stop what we can do together.
So just really a wonderful ad. And not only is it a typical sort of inspirational ad from Nike, but it was just what people needed to hear at that time. It also has some great other hallmarks of Nike that were going to actually be very important throughout the whole crisis. One is the incredible amount of diversity and inclusion in that ad, and the idea that the world will be a better place. Not just that the world is going through something tough, but that when we come through it, the world may actually be a better place. And then beyond that is just, I think, perhaps one of the greatest editing jobs in the history of advertising. Let's take a look at another thing that was really interesting. This is looking at a brand, Lush, which I'm sure most of you know, and how they provided a product that was exactly the type of product people needed right at the time. So I'm going to show you a video by an influencer talking about what Lush had created.
Hi, and welcome to this week's installment of Brightbox TV, powered by the team here at Punch. This week's corral of compelling content is sure to get you excited. So, shall we get started? The brand Lush, known for its aromatic bath products and cosmetics, have developed a new hand soap designed so that it dissolves in just 30 seconds. It was created to encourage healthy hand washing and to help curb the spread of coronavirus. Lush joined forces with food delivery company Delivery to help distribute the soap across all customers in the UAE. Not only are there definite health benefits to this rapidly disappearing soap, but it's also a great way for Lush to promote their brand. Fancy an out of this world adventure? A balloon ride to the sky?
So you get the idea. So, it's almost hard to imagine. I mean, we all maybe have trouble thinking back to when we were all running to the supermarket to get toilet paper, to back when we were all singing happy birthday as we were washing our hands and wondering if we were singing it too fast. So what Lush has done here is at that time, everyone was so obsessed with washing hands and how long to wash hands. And they created this perfect soap that took just that long to dissolve. So that's a really helpful thing at a very important time where a brand is being useful. Now let's take a look at something that L'Oreal did. Again, we're talking about the fact that people are feeling insecure. And again, particularly in the United States, we see the emergence of protesting and a lot of focus on Black Lives Matter early in the pandemic. And here's how L'Oreal really embraced both of those things, reinforcing us in a time of insecurity and in a very subtle way, emphasizing Black Lives Matter.
You're worth it. 3 words we have all heard at least 1,000 times, right? You're worth it. But do you really understand what that means? It's a beautiful reminder to us all that we have worth. You have reason and rarity. There is value in each and every one of us, including you. That is precious, even on the days you might not feel it. You never depreciate in value. Those words are there to remind you. So to all those watching who feel like that or have ever felt like that, focus on what I'm about to say and repeat after me. I'm worth it. Okay? Maybe that felt great, or perhaps that felt weird. Let's go again. First, take a deep breath and let it out. Forget the naysayers and silence the critics, even if the harshest words are the ones you say to yourself. Do not doubt yourself, and this time, speak it louder, really loud. I'm worth it. And the next time you hesitate before going after something you want, the next time you blush and brush off a compliment, the next time you doubt your place in the world, in the workplace, in your home, or in your own skin, say these words to yourself: I'm worth it. And I know you will always say it like you mean it. I'm worth it. Because you are. And always will be. Got that?
That, at least to me, is a very, very powerful ad, and one that could have gone horribly wrong. You've got a cosmetics company making some really powerful statements. And if you don't do it right, it can blow up in your face. But the reality is they did it, I think, exactly right. They got the exact right actress. They got the exact right performance. And you walk away feeling, enhanced by an ad like that. Let's talk about getting it completely wrong. Sometimes it's more fun to show what doesn't work than what does work. And of course, there can be disagreement here. I'm happy for anyone to disagree and tell me this is a great ad. The sad part is it's an ad for a client that I used to work on years and years ago. So it makes it even worse for me to put it up here. But let's take a quick look.
When we first opened our doors, it didn't take us long to realize
We weren't in the car business.
At Lexus, we were in the people business.
We needed to be helpful.
respectful,
And compassionate.
To treat people like guests.
It's what we all signed up for.
And now when people need this most, we will do what we've always done.
Take care of people first.
the rest will follow.
Now, to me, that's just advertising pablum. There's no real inspiration there. There's no real understanding of what people are going through in this early part of the crisis. In fact, it's all sort of backpatting. It's like, hey, at Lexus, we've always put the customer first, so we're going to do what we always do. I can't think of a worse message at the beginning of a crisis than we're going to do what we always do. And we're not going to do anything different. And we're going to put people first. And what does that really mean? They're selling cars. What does that really mean, that they're going to put people first in a way that helps them cope with this crisis? And the reality is, I don't mean to pick on Lexus. There was lots of advertising like this. Lots of brands out there saying, hey, we understand, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that, but they're not actually doing anything. They're just pretending that they've said something important when they haven't. At the same time, early in the pandemic, when we had social distancing, brands were doing things like this. And McDonald's, which does some fantastic advertising, and lots of brands were taking their logos and separating them. And the funny thing is, in the second stage, which we'll talk about in a minute, this might have been very effective. Back when we're all used to it and we're all like, okay, social distancing's our new thing, masks are our new thing. But early in the pandemic, people were in panic mode and playing with this and playing light with it. and just poking fun at it was totally inappropriate early in the pandemic. And a lot of brands didn't realize that right away. And a lot of creatives were out there just saying, hey, this looks like it'll win an award. It's kind of cute. It's kind of fun. Let's put it out there. So let's focus on the lessons we've learned from what works and what doesn't work in stage one. Early in the pandemic, empathy works, real empathy, not like that Lexus empathy we just looked at. Empathy and hope. Providing practical help like Lush, providing a soap that dissolves in 30 seconds, right? And being a subtle cheerleader, not being over the top cheerleader, but being a subtle cheerleader for, hey, we can get through this together. Before I move on, Ed, did I miss anything? Ed, are you there?
Fabulous.
Good. Okay. Again, let me know if there's anything you said yesterday that you'd like to add or that I missed. Just let me know. Okay. Let's look at stage two. Let's look at some brands that have done stage two right when we're getting into the new normal of wearing masks, social distancing, and we're all like getting used to it. Okay. Here's an ad from Match.com and one of the most awarded ads of the year.
Oh, I've dated much worse guys than him. Much worse. I mean, at least he's famous. Satan?
2020.
Please, call me 2020.
I just don't want this year to end.
You would.
So there's a case study of the ad. I don't need to show the ad. I'm sure you've all seen it. It's one of the most famous ads of the year and one of the most awarded, where the devil uses Match.com and gets hooked up with the year 2020, and they just love each other because they're both so horrible and so evil. Again, this is very important for stage two. Had this run in stage one, it may have been the most inappropriate ad ever made. Because at that time we're panicking. We don't want people to make fun of what 2020 is like and COVID, but we're now at a point where it's the new normal. We can start to poke fun at the way we've been living while we're still trying to live safe and wear masks and social distance. Again, KFC did that, right? We can start having a little bit of fun with this. So KFC, starts to block out finger licking because we're not supposed to be licking our fingers. That's a bad thing. I've got my alcohol wipes here on my desk, and I've got my hand sanitizer over there. And then we see on the right, wash fingers thoroughly before licking. So really good way to sort of re-emphasize their brand equity, but to do it in a way that's kind of fun and a way that we can all accept is a good little joke about what the new normal is like during COVID. I want to talk about some brands that you don't see doing much advertising unless you're in a really specialized space that really stepped up and understood that this new normal could be a fantastic opportunity for them. So one of those brands is Winnebago. And I'm going to show you two videos from Winnebago, one describing the idea and one showing you what the idea looked like when it came to fruition.
Hi, everyone. Winnebago has come up with a way that we can all get together and still social distance, and it is with a sing-along, a virtual sing-along. Winnebago has gained the rights to the song On the Road Again, and Sabrina and I will be lending our voices And you can too. Just follow the link down below and join us on this virtual sing-along as we all look forward to getting back on the road again. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye.
So that was the idea. Here's what the idea looked like when it came to fruition.
On the road again. Just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Going places that I've never been. Seeing things that I may never see again. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Like a band of gypsies, we go down the highway. We're the best of friends.
Insisting that the world keeps turning our way.
In our way. Is on the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. And I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. Like a band of gypsies, we go down the highway. We're the best of friends. Insisting that the world keeps turning our way. In our way. It's on the road again. I just can't wait to get on the road again.
I love is making music with my friends.
And I can't wait to get on the road again. And I can't wait to get on the road again.
Bye, everybody.
You know, for me, I find that a fabulous, empowering advertising idea. And, you know, again, we're at that point in the pandemic where people are just dying to get out. They're getting stir crazy. And the only way they can't fly anywhere. They can get in their cars, they can drive, they can go on trips with the groups of people that they're with and stay socially distanced. It's just wonderful celebration of we can get on the road again. It may be all we can do, but we can do that and we can do it and it can be really successful. Another thing that really works for brands in this time in stage 2 is getting us involved. And one of the things Tesco did, I said I would talk about brands overseas. Tesco is a very big supermarket in the UK. And what they did is in the UK, unlike the US, Easter is a really big deal in the UK. I mean, Easter is a pretty big deal in the US, but it's a really big deal in the UK. It's one of the really major opportunities for people to get together. And we're at a point where people wanted to salvage Easter, again, with, you know, the fact that we have social distance, we can't always go see our mom and dad. And what I want to do is I want to show you how they did that. And you need to understand this in the context of the bigger campaign. For about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years, Tesco had been getting people who shopped at Tesco to share different recipes that they had. And people could make and cook those recipes. So in this case, we're talking about Nan's, grandma's long distance roast lamb. Let's take a look.
I can't see anything.
You need to put your camera on, Mum.
Oh, there you all are. Hello, everyone. Let's get started. I'm starving. Right, I've got loads of lovely rosemary marinade for the lamb. But the real trick is slicing your potatoes so they go crispy.
I made a mess of these potatoes.
How's this, Nan?
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Show off, done. Yes. Nana's long distance lamb. Well, that wasn't too tricky, was it?
Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
So again, their campaign for 2 years has been Food Love Stories. And then they basically just turned it into an online love story between people who can't get together for Easter, helping people salvage Easter through wonderful recipes. What they could also do, brands could also start thinking about what the future might look like, not promising when the future might look like that, but saying, hey, the future is probably going to be a better place. We don't know when that's coming, but we can start putting bets on it now. Let's take a look at what Carlsberg did in Europe. And then for those of you who know, at the end, they say probably, and Carlsberg's famous ad line has been probably the best beer in the world. Again, I think this is just a lovely idea. It works on so many levels. It allows you to drink at home. And then for everything you drink at home, you're earning drinks in the bar for whenever we can get back to the bar. While at the same time, you're earning money for that bar so that they're not going to go out of business. Carlsberg is going to help keep those bars open because you're drinking Carlsberg at home. Works on a lot of levels, and it's just a win-win-win at a really important time during the COVID crisis. Again, we talk about the fact that we can have fun at this point, like we can have fun with the new normal. And Snickers did that really well. This is sort of near the end of the second phase of the crisis. Let's take a look.
It's so good to see you guys. Han, out here.
Are we on yet? I thought we were doing a Zoom thing.
Confused?
No.
Maybe you just need a Snickers.
So again, really fun. And we're at that point where we're not allowed to see everybody, but we've got these little pods of people who we feel comfortable with. And now we're getting off the Zoom and maybe getting some real interaction. Snickers knows that and did a beautiful job of tying it into their wonderful campaign, which for a decade has been one of the most successful campaigns in advertising history. We can also, again, start to have fun. Lay's is, this is in, Ed, can you remind me, is this in Europe or is this in the US?
US.
It is US, where we actually have on the packaging, what our smiles look like, because we're kind of joking about the fact that, we can't see people smiling under their mask. We talked about being on the road again. Oklahoma understood that, and they created socially distanced vacations. Let's take a look at what they did.
We're out here in the panhandle of Western Oklahoma.
Okay, for the purposes of time, I think you get the idea. And again, it's really tapped into this idea of, we can't go everywhere, but we can stay local, we can drive in cars, we can see everything in this state. So really smart campaign. And let's take a look. We just looked at Snickers, like showing a moment we've all been there where we think we're on Zoom and we're walking out in our underwear. Nivea did something that was a little more poignant in terms of something that a lot of us have been through during the crisis.
Hi, Mom.
Come on, skinny love, just last the year. Over a little soul, you were never here. My, 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 my. Staring at the sink of blood and crushed live. Cause now I'm breaking at the bridges on the ends of all your behind. Come on, skinny
So sometimes the best thing for a brand is to show a little understanding, show the empathy and understand what we're all going through. And a lot of people are going through this and even worse. So what are the lessons learned in stage 2? First, lighten up. We all need a smile, right? For 3 months or 4 months, we had all been just in crisis mode. Show us accomplishing things we never thought possible, and ultimately show that in the end, we're all going to be fine. And the brands that we've shown here have done all that very, very well. Let's take a look at stage 3. And stage 3 is where we are now. I mean, it's not like stage 3 was weeks ago. Stage 3 is really what we're in the midst of right now. Here's an ad for Coca-Cola, and it's really celebrating, as a lot of these ads are doing, kind of us opening up again.
Stop. Wait. Who says we have to go back to normal?
What if the biggest change is you and me? What if we choose to be open and say, I'll never call my job unimportant again. I'll never say that teachers' holidays are too long. Or that school is dry and I can't wait to move on. What if I just smile a bit, travel less, and love every mile of it? What if I believe in the change my cooking, my music can do? What if I refuse to be a stranger in my own living room? What if my dreams never take the back seat again? What if I'm there whenever you need a friend? And I stand by every word I say. I'll make my vote count, make my voice heard today. See, I'll never forget how much stronger we are together. I'll carry that in my heart forever. We'll weather the storm. So I'll be open, like never before.
To a degree, Ed and I could have avoided doing this whole presentation and just shown this ad. I mean, in a way, this ad shows everything there is to learn from doing great pandemic advertising. It's basically showing we're stronger together, and that when we come out the other side of this pandemic, our priorities are going to be different. And they're going to be different in a really good way. We're not going to take things for granted we used to take for granted, and we're going to try and make sure the world is a better world. A more balanced world, a more fair world. Here's a wonderful ad from YouTube, again, celebrating us coming back. I can't think of a better way to convince people to get a vaccine than that. Extra Gum, and Extra Gum is, as we all know, I think as advertising professionals, done some fabulous advertising over the last 4 or 5 years. And this ad is no exception.
Good morning, folks. This is WGUM, your stay-at-home radio station with better music and more of it. News and weather is on the way. And this just in, we are back. We can see people again. How about that? I can't believe it. News is on the way. We'll learn more in just a moment. I can't believe it.
There were nights when the wind was so cold. But it was in bed if I just listened to it right outside the window. I finished crying in the instant that you left, and I can't remember where or when or how. And I banished every memory you and I had ever made. Touch me like this, and hold me like that. I just have to admit that it's all coming back to me. It's all coming back, it's all coming back to me now. There were moments of gold and there were flashes of light. There were nights of endless pleasure. It was more than any loss in love. Baby, baby, if I kiss you like this,
I just love that commercial. The other thing I love about that commercial is strategically, it's very, very good. It's not just funny. It's not just, a celebration of us coming back. It integrates the product so beautifully. The reality is, if we get back together, we're going to start touching, we're going to start kissing, we're going to start getting closer together. And that's when you need a really good fresh breath and the gum. So the gum is integrated into the story in a really interesting way, in a really strategic way. The last one I want to show here before we talk about the learnings from stage 3 is GoDaddy. And this is quite different. This isn't just a celebration, but it embraces a new social awareness that comes out of the pandemic. So let's take a look at that.
America has always been associated with making it. They're defying the odds, and their stories show us what it means to be made in America.
I want to see this through for the sake of my family.
Let's take a look. What are the lessons we've learned in stage 3? Well, celebrate success. I mean, that's what those first 3 ads are really about. Celebration. We're coming back. We're getting over this. Start us thinking about the future and understanding that the future is the same, meaning it's like we want to go back to where we were, but it's also different. It's more diverse. It's less judgmental, and it's more just. And the brands that really get it are the ones that understand that diversity, social justice, Black Lives Matter, new priorities between families and friends and teachers and families and communities mean that coming back is a new normal, meaning the new normal is a better normal, because hopefully we're better people for having come through this experience. So that's really it. Those are the key lessons. And what I want to do is I want to open it up. We've got a few minutes. We've probably got till the top of the hour, and we don't have a big group of people. I think there are only 9 people on this call. So I'd really be interested if anyone has a point of view on, what we've been talking about and what of those things are going to continue to be relevant, let's say into 2022 and 2023.
Something I'm really interested to hear your perspective on, Brian, is the pandemic's look like we're going out of it now, hopefully. We don't have another spike here, but how is this going to impact advertising as a whole going forward? The timeliness was a common theme among all of these stages of hitting the right time. Do you think that advertisers are going to be more cautious to jump on trends, or how do you think they're going to approach big issues that affect the world like this?
Well, I think that's the question, and I don't know. I mean, the reality is I don't know. Ed, I don't think you know, and I want to open that up. We have our opinions, but I'd love to get some interaction from some people on this call. Now I see Sam Smith. Are you there, Sam?
Hey, Brian, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
I wanted to make sure that was the same Sam Smith that you.
This is the Sam Smith? The one and only.
The Sam Smith.
One in a million.
What do you think, Sam? So is the future a very
Man,
different future for advertising? Or do
Are
we
you
get
just
back
putting
into
me
our
on
old?
the spot because I'm supposed to have an answer for you?
Oh, I'm just interested in what.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. I think COVID-19, this retrospective you guys did, it's over now. It doesn't help to go back and look at it, but I'm probably going to see one or two more worldwide catastrophes in my career. I think this will become a playbook for, the upcoming water, silicon, helium shortages, climate crisis, world war, antibiotic resistant bacteria, whatever Elon Musk comes up with next, whatever is coming down the pipeline. I think the brands you showcased here, those are plays that you can make for any global catastrophe.
Good point. How about, I hate putting people on the spot, but I'm going to. Donna Green, I don't know you, but I'd love to see if you're still there. Can you hear me, Donna? No? Steve Schaefer?
Yeah, I'm here.
What do you think, Steve?
I think that, technology has certainly helped us get through crises like the pandemic. And I think technology is going to continue to change the way we look at our lives. And that includes advertising and promotion. I think, social media has certainly changed, the landscape. And I think that it will continue. And I think people are going to be more interactive, more creative, share their ideas, share their experiences, and help each other through these crises. In the past, advertising's always been one way. And so, I think that